2, 1. That was Ronnie DeVoe of New Edition Candy Girl. So last week, earlier this week, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, signed a portion of his infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion. I think it'll be transformative. I think it'll modernize cities, roads, and bridges. I think that it will be transformative in a lot of people's lives in terms of employment and making America step forward. I think is a very good thing, and I think for all people involved, it will do a lot. But in the interim, Pete Buttigieg, who's the Secretary of Transportation, talked about the inherent racism the last time this happened, FDR, and of course Ted Cruz, the human shoe scrum, had something to say. He talked about how there was roads and bridges and highways can't be racist, smirking about it. No, they can't be. Roads, bridges, and highways obviously cannot be racist. They are used to transport people to and from happy occasions and sad dates and breakups. Hospitals to put people away, and hospitals will watch lives being born. They are useful and necessary. We understand that, and most certainly they're inanimate objects made of concrete and asphalt and steel, and of course they cannot be racist. But the people who commission them, the people who build them, can. City planners can and were. As a matter of fact, the last time this happened, and the thing that I think the secretary was alluding to, was that roads and bridges and highways, as much as they were built to transport people, they were built to separate and divide and to keep people away from things. Like I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up on 135th and Avalon and Rosecrans, and I never went to a western beach until I was 19, 20 years old, because there is no easy access, and that kind of repeats itself all over the country. Streets built narrower, harder to get to, bridges lower so buses can't get through, no public transportation. All of these things were deliberate. Roads that cut one part of the town off from the other parts of the town. Bridges that separated people. They were built deliberately. As a matter of fact, they used at the turn of the century, the 19th century, they used redlining to build the highway. So redlining is when banks make an investment in communities. They go, this is a viable one, this isn't. And oftentimes that was based on race. I don't care if that black neighborhood was filled with doctors or lawyers, teachers, upwardly mobile people. They still assigned it a thing. And what the FDR's bill did, the highway bill did, it had used redlining to start its highway projects. So early in the 1900s, there was a place right outside of Santa Monica here in California, and it was called Sugar Hill, literally called Sugar Hill. And it was full of black, successful people. And do you know what they did? They decided to start the freeway where? Right through Sugar Hill. So they took these successful black people who had earned land and built this land in Santa Monica, which would be invaluable if it were alive today, and they built the 10 all the way through another wealthy neighborhood in Louisiana, all the way across the country. And they did that all across the country. They used the highway system to displace upwardly mobile black people. So if we're going to build back better, we can't build things the same way again. Our highway system, the things that they use, and also what also happened was that black people and brown people were deliberately, if they accrued wealth, if you look at the 105 freeway, they took houses that those people had bought and earned, took it away from them, and used eminent domain to do it. So when Pete Buttigieg talks about the inherent racism and Ted Cruz is smug about it, there are people who lost their fortunes because they used a racist system to displace them and take their money away. You don't have to look at me. Look at the national highway system and watch where it originates and watch where it goes through. And look what happened. So if we're going to build back better, we cannot build things the same way. And the knowledge of that is paramount. The roads that transported people, also black people and brown people tend to have, when the highways were built, it gave people who were upwardly mobile and they could have cars. It gave them a pathway. They could have jobs that you couldn't have before. They could be a salesman or drive places to other jobs. Public transportation was not invested in, and they did it on purpose. It stifled people's economic growth on purpose. So those roads were a boon to some people and a detriment to others. We cannot do it again. And all these people who do not want to learn from history just want to ignore it. He was right. Inherently, the system was inherent because it deliberately sought to enrich one and decimate another. So we don't want to do it again. Roads and bridges and highways are wonderful. All of us have been on them. We use them every day. They are so necessary, but they also cause detrimental harm to communities of color on purpose. Why did the chicken cross the road? Well, we'll tell you what, we built one so he couldn't. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.